Hello and welcome to the Small House Society. My name is Gregory Johnson and I'm one of the facilitators of the Small House Society. This video tour will introduce you to the organization and share with you a little bit about the Small House movement and what our group is doing to help promote and facilitate that. Since 2002, when the Small House Society was formed by just a handful of people, it's grown to be an organization representing hundreds of people from around the world. Each week we receive thousands of visits to our website from literally over 100 countries. And so it's exciting to see the interest in smaller, simpler, more sustainable living. But it is a challenge to respond to the many phone calls and emails that we get. We want to provide a personal response, and yet it just isn't possible. So that's what this video is about. It's a way to introduce you to the organization and give you a little tour of the website and tell you a little more about the Small House movement. One common question that people have about the Small House movement is whether or not it's growing. And the answer to that is definitely yes. When the Small House Society began back in 2002, if you were to do a Google search for small house, it would be like doing a search for small whale or small elephant. There were a few results that came up, but not many. And over the years, we've seen the Google search results increase. So I remember when it was in the thousands, and that was an exciting time. Later, it reached into the 100,000s. And then topped over 1 million search results on Google for small house. And as of today, I just ran a Google search and I see that we've broken the 1 billion results mark. So now if you do a search, or at least as of today, if you do a search on small house, you'll see over 1 billion results on that search, and it's just phenomenal. We're thankful to see the Small House Society as the #1 result on a Google search for small house. But there are a number of other factors that are pointing to this as a significant movement and a growing movement. So I'm just going to read off a few of these books. There have been a number of books released in recent months and years relating to the small house movement, about how to more effectively design an existing home or how to construct and build new homes that are smaller than the average home in the United States, at least. And so seeing the growth of published books on the small house movement is really an indicator that something's really happening there. Another indicator are the website visitors, at least that we've seen, and I know that other people have seen to their websites that relate to small house living. The Small House Society, when it began, might have received maybe even less than 100 visits in a day. And I remember when the visits became, we saw, say, several hundred visits in a day, and then topped 1,000. We've had some days where we've had over 70,000 hits in a single day to the website. So that trend, that growth, is seen in the interest that people have when they're out there on the web doing a search and reading about simpler, smaller living. We're also seeing more websites dedicated to simpler, smaller living. These are websites that didn't exist a few years ago. So the movement has inspired and contributed toward the increase in these websites that are dedicated to writing, photography, videos about small house living. Media coverage. There's been a significant increase in media coverage. The small house movement has definitely been recognized by mainstream media. Jay Schaefer was interviewed on The Oprah Show. For those of you who know Jay, he's the proprietor of the Tumbleweed Tiny House Company. There are many other architects and builders out there who have also made it onto national and global media outlets, whether that be radio or television. I've been interviewed on the radio in Australia, in Ireland, magazines and newspapers in other countries such as China. There have been just numerous articles in the media about the small house movement, so the coverage is definitely there. House sales. The people who are designing and building these small homes have reported that they are seeing an increase in house sales. And in addition to that, we're also seeing more and more architects who are well-established architectural firms, let's say, begin to focus on smaller building, smaller construction. And architectural firms that didn't exist before are being launched with an emphasis on smaller and simpler living. So that's an indicator of growth in the movement. These are just a few of the factors that are indicators showing that there is really a lot of growth in the small house movement and the interest in simpler, smaller, more sustainable living. So what are the causes of this growth? What's caused the interest in the small house movement? Well, it seems like there are a convergence of several factors. One factor is the environment's impact on us. We see, Katrina, wildfires, floods, earthquakes, hurricanes, lots of natural disasters that are causing devastation to personal property. So people are beginning to reevaluate how much money and effort they want to put into a home, for example. Do you want to invest $300,000, $500,000, maybe more than $1 million in a house that could be gone tomorrow? And then, of course, the second realization that people are having, largely as a result of movies like An Inconvenient Truth and others, people are realizing that our lives have an impact on the environment, either with global warming or air pollution, noise pollution. The things that we do, the choices we make, will impact our quality of life and the quality of the environment. So having a smaller footprint is sort of an obvious way to save money and reduce one's impact on the environment. Another factor is there's an increased desire for freedom. People want to have more free time. They want to have more free money available to do what they want to do. And having a huge home to take care of and having the huge house payments that go with that really tie a person down, create a lot of stress. Financial stress is one of the primary causes of stress in relationships. And so, people just want higher quality relationships, higher quality of life, and to do so, they're turning toward simpler, smaller living. So these are the factors. Of course, the housing crisis plays into that as well. So it's this convergence of issues that have come to a head right now. Concerns about the environment, concerns about finances, the housing crisis, people wanting freedom, and all of that equates to people pursuing simpler and smaller living. And that's why now if you do a Google search on small house, you'll see possibly 1 billion results on that topic. It's a very hot topic right now, a lot of growth in the movement. As the movement continues to grow, what we see are 4 primary groups of people who are helping to facilitate and foster the embracing of smaller, simpler living. The first group would be journalists and the media, those who are covering through writing, the radio, audio, through video, through photography, covering the small house movement and showing how people can live a good life, a comfortable life, an enjoyable and a successful life, and yet embrace simpler, smaller, sustainable principles. Okay, so the first group is journalists and the media, and we really appreciate the coverage that we're getting there. The second group would be designers and builders. There's been a huge growth among existing architects who are now focusing on simpler, smaller, sustainable design. There are also new architectural and building organizations and companies that didn't exist before who are coming to the market with ideas and an emphasis that focuses on simpler, smaller, sustainable living. So it's wonderful to see that there's a business side of this, that's profit-driven and well-funded in that sense. And there is a marketplace that's equally interested in simpler, smaller living, and that's why these businesses can do so well, and it's why there are so many of them starting up. The third group would be similar to journalists and the media, but it's the bloggers and the writers who are on the web, the sort of viral marketing, if you will, of the small house movement. People on Facebook, people on different social networks, through YouTube, through all of the variety of media outlets that are on the internet, promoting simpler and smaller living and showing what it can be like when people embrace a smaller way of life. So that's the third group. And then finally, the final fourth group of people who are helping to promote the simpler, smaller, more sustainable living movement are the small housers, we call them. People who are actually living in smaller homes or maybe a small apartment, but making it work and then sharing their lives and encouraging others to do the same. So these are living examples. These people are living examples of how to live well, live small, live simple, and live sustainable. This has been a production of ResourcesForLife.com, where you'll find resources for better living. Come visit us on the web.